Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Horizon. Through the big window he could see a huge alien ship getting closer. The ship was black and covered with sharp spikes. It belonged to the Zephyrians, a race of warrior aliens who were known for being very fierce and dangerous. Jake had been a captain for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The Zephyrian ship was 3 times bigger than his own vessel. Its weapons could destroy entire planets. Today was supposed to be a peaceful meeting between humans and Zephyrians, but something had gone very wrong. The alien queen named Valara had come to the space station with her personal fleet. She brought her 2 daughters with her. The daughters were young princesses who were supposed to learn about diplomacy and peace talks, but now the princesses were missing, and nobody knew where they had gone. Lieutenant Commander Amy Brooks walked up to Jake. Her face looked worried and scared. She had been working in space diplomacy for 10 years, but she had never dealt with angry Zephyrians before. "Sir, we have a big problem," Amy said. "Queen Valara is very angry. She thinks we took her daughters on purpose. She believes we are, holding them as prisoners to get something from her." Jake felt his stomach drop. The Zephyrians were not like humans. They were much taller and stronger. They had natural armor on their bodies and claws that could cut through metal. When they got angry, they became very dangerous. Queen Valara could order her ships to attack the space station, and thousands of humans would die. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. 6 hours, Amy replied. "After that, she says she will declare war on all humans everywhere. Her fleet is already moving into attack positions around our station." Jake looked at the alien ships on his screen. There were 12 of them, all armed with weapons that could turn the space station into dust. He had only 3 human ships to defend with, and they were much smaller and weaker than the Zephyrian vessels. Dr. Alex Carter came onto the bridge carrying a tablet full of information. Alex was the station's expert on alien life forms. He had studied many different species, but the Zephyrians were still new to him. They had only made contact with humans 2 years ago. "Captain, I think we need to understand something important about the missing princesses," Alex said. "Everyone assumes they are like adult Zephyrians, but they might be very different." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Adult Zephyrians are warriors. They think about honor and fighting and protecting their people. But young Zephyrians might think about completely different things. We don't know much about their children or how they behave." On the main deck of the space station, Security Chief Lisa Grant was organizing search teams. Lisa had been in charge of station security for 8 years. She was good at finding lost people and solving problems. But she had never tried to find missing alien princesses before. "We need to search every room, every hallway, every storage area," Lisa told her teams. 2 large aliens cannot just disappear. They have to be somewhere on this station." The Zephyrian honor guards followed the human search teams. These alien warriors were 7 feet tall and covered in natural armor. Their eyes glowed red with anger. They did not trust the humans, and they were ready to fight if they thought the humans were lying about the missing princesses. The search teams looked everywhere. They checked the diplomatic quarters where the princesses had been staying. They searched the meeting rooms and the dining areas. They looked in maintenance tunnels and supply closets, but they found nothing. Meanwhile, in a small room on Deck 7, Petty Officer Danny Walsh was trying to sleep. Danny was 25 years old and worked in the engineering section. His job was to fix things that broke on the station and make sure all the machines worked properly. Danny had been working extra shifts for the past week. The space station needed more power and better air recycling while all the aliens were visiting. Danny was tired and needed rest before his next work period. His room was small and simple. He had a bed, a desk, a closet, and a small bathroom. The walls were plain metal, and there were no decorations except for a few pictures of his family back on Earth. It was not fancy, but it was quiet and comfortable. Danny did not know that while he was trying to sleep, the biggest diplomatic crisis in human history was happening just a few decks above him. He did not know that alien warships were getting ready to attack his home. He only knew that he was very tired and needed to rest. As the hours passed, the situation got worse. Queen Valara became more angry and more threatening. Her bioluminescent crown, which was part of her natural body, flashed bright red and orange colors. These colors meant danger and rage in Zephyrian culture. The Queen's voice boomed through the translation machines. You humans are liars and thieves. You have stolen my precious daughters. If you do not return them immediately, I will destroy every human settlement in this part of the galaxy. Captain Morrison tried to stay calm, but he was running out of options. His engineers were quietly preparing the station's weapons, but everyone knew they would not be enough against the Zephyrian fleet. If fighting started, the humans would lose quickly. Dr. Carter kept studying the security videos, looking for any clue about where the princesses might have gone. He watched the footage of them walking through the station when they first arrived. Something about their behavior seemed different from what he expected, but he could not figure out what it was. Captain, Alex said, I think we are making a mistake. We are looking for the princesses as if they were adult Zephyrians. But what if they are more like human teenagers? What if they think and act differently than their parents? Jake considered this idea. Human teenagers sometimes did unexpected things. They sometimes rebelled against their parents or ran away when they felt pressured. Maybe Zephyrian young people were similar. Keep searching, Jake ordered. But start thinking about places where scared young people might hide. Look for quiet, safe places where they might go if they wanted to be alone. The clock was ticking. 5 hours left until Queen Valara's deadline. 5 hours to prevent a war that could destroy human civilization. And somewhere on the space station, 2 alien princesses were hiding in a place nobody had thought to look. 4 hours remained until Queen Valara's deadline. The search for her missing daughters had become desperate. Every human on the space station was now involved in looking for the 2 Zephyrian princesses. Even the cooks and janitors had joined. The search team's Commander Amy Brooks stood in the main control room, coordinating the search efforts. She had maps of the entire station displayed on large screens. Red dots showed where teams had already searched. There were hundreds of red dots, but still no sign of the missing princesses. We have checked 90% of the station, Amy reported to Captain Morrison. The only places left are some storage areas and the personal quarters of crew members. Jake nodded grimly. Start searching those too. Get permission from the crew first, but make it clear this is an emergency. If someone refuses, search anyway. We cannot afford to leave any area unchecked. The Zephyrian honor guards were becoming more agitated as time passed. Their leader, a massive warrior named Korax, kept demanding updates from the human search teams. His natural armor plates rattled when he moved, and his claws left scratches on the metal walls. Your people are incompetent, Korax growled through his translator. How can 2 young Zephyrians simply vanish? You must be hiding them somewhere. Security Chief Lisa Grant tried to remain professional, but the stress was getting to her. We are doing everything we can, she told the alien warrior. We have over 200 people searching right now. We will find your princesses. Dr. Alex Carter had spent the last 3 hours studying everything he could find about young Zephyrians. Unfortunately, there was not much information available. The Zephyrians had only recently started talking with humans, and they did not like to share details about their children and families. Captain, I found something interesting in the security footage, Alex said. He brought up a video on his tablet showing the 2 princesses when they first arrived at the station. Look at how they walk and move. They stay close together, and they keep looking around nervously. Jake watched the video carefully. The 2 princesses did seem anxious. They walked behind their mother and her guards, but they kept glancing at the human crew members in the station's corridors. Their bioluminescent patches, which were part of their natural body, flickered with colors that changed rapidly. What do those colors mean? Jake asked. I'm not completely sure, but based on my research, rapid color changes usually indicate stress or confusion in Zephyrians. These princesses were not comfortable here from the very beginning. Amy Brooks joined the conversation. Dr. Carter, you mentioned earlier that young Zephyrians might behave differently than adults. What exactly did you mean by that? Alex pulled up more files on his tablet. Adult Zephyrians are warriors. Their society is based on strength, honor, and fighting. But young Zephyrians have not gone through their adult transformation yet. They might still have instincts that are more focused on survival and finding safe places. Safe places? Jake repeated. Think about young animals on Earth, Alex explained. When they are scared or stressed, they look for small hidden places where they can feel protected. Maybe these princesses were not kidnapped. Maybe they ran away to find somewhere they felt safe. This was a new way to think about the problem. If the princesses had hidden themselves, they could be anywhere on the station, but why would they feel the need to hide? They were supposed to be honored guests. Lisa Grant came back with an update from her search teams. Sir, we have found something strange. Some crew members reported that they heard unusual sounds in the ventilation systems, scratching noises and soft whistling sounds. Could the princesses have gotten into the air ducts? Amy asked. It's possible, Lisa replied. Zephyrians are very flexible despite their size. If they wanted to move around the station without being seen, the ventilation system would be a good way to do it. Jake made a decision. Focus the search on the ventilation system and any areas connected to it. Also, start checking the personal quarters of crew members, especially those on the lower decks where it might be quieter. Meanwhile, in the engineering section, Chief Petty Officer Ben Rodriguez noticed something odd in his computer readings. The environmental systems were showing small irregularities in airflow and temperature on some of the lower decks. Hey, Danny, Ben called to his colleague. Take a look at these readings. Something is blocking normal air circulation in the Deck 7 area. Danny Walsh looked at the computer screen. He had been working double shifts and was very tired, but he was good at reading the station's technical systems. The patterns are weird, he said. It's not like normal blockage from debris or equipment failure. The heat signatures are too regular and too warm. Could be some kind of malfunction, Ben suggested. Or maybe something got into the ducts. You better go check it out. Danny gathered his diagnostic equipment and headed toward Deck 7. As he walked through the corridors, he could hear the sounds of search teams in other parts of the station. Their voices echoed through the ventilation system, along with the heavy footsteps of Zephyrian warriors. The situation was getting more tense by the hour. Queen Valara had started making specific threats about which human colonies she would attack. First, her fleet had moved even closer to the station, and their weapons were powered up and ready to fire. Dr. Carter continued studying Zephyrian biology and behavior. He had a theory about why the princesses might have disappeared, but he needed more information to be sure. The problem was that most research about Zephyrians focused on adults, not children. Captain, Alex said, I think I need to talk to Queen Valara directly. If I can ask her some questions about her daughter's behavior and preferences, I might be able to figure out where they went. Jake was hesitant. She's not in a mood to answer questions right now. She might see it as a delay tactic. It's worth the risk, Alex insisted. We are running out of time and options. Maybe if she realizes we are trying to understand her daughters rather than just find them, she will be more willing to help. The meeting with Queen Valara was arranged quickly. The alien ruler stood 8 feet tall in her ceremonial armor. Her bioluminescent crown flashed angry red and orange colors. Her forearms were crossed and her claws extended slightly, which was a sign of hostility. Why do you waste time with questions when you should be searching? She demanded. Dr. Carter tried to stay calm despite facing one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. Your Majesty, we have searched most of the station, but we have not found your daughters. I believe they may have hidden themselves, but I need to understand why they would do that. My daughters are brave warriors, Queen Valara said proudly. They do not hide from anything. But they are still young, aren't they? Alex asked carefully. Even brave warriors might feel overwhelmed in a new place with many strangers. For the first time, Queen Valara's angry colors flickered. For just a moment, her bioluminescent patches showed a different color, deep blue, which Alex recognized as sadness or worry. They are my precious children, she said quietly. This was their first diplomatic mission. I wanted them to learn about other species and about leadership. But perhaps the responsibility was too much for them. This was the breakthrough Dr. Carter had been hoping for. The princesses were not missing because they had been kidnapped. They were missing because they were young and scared and overwhelmed by the pressure of being royal representatives. Your Majesty. If your daughters were looking for a quiet, safe place to rest and recover from stress, where do you think they might go? Queen Valara thought about this question. They would look for somewhere small and warm and comfortable, somewhere that reminded them of their nesting chambers at home. Alex smiled for the first time in hours. I think I know where they might be. Danny Walsh walked through the corridors of Deck 7 with his diagnostic scanner in hand. The device was beeping softly as it detected unusual heat patterns in the ventilation system. The readings were strange, too warm to be mechanical problems, but too regular to be random debris. As Danny got closer to his own quarters, the scanner's beeps became faster and more frequent. Whatever was causing the environmental irregularities was very close to his room. He could also hear faint sounds that did not belong in the metal corridors of a space station. The sounds were soft but clear, gentle whistling noises and occasional scratching, like someone shifting around in a small space. Danny's first thought was that some kind of space creature had somehow gotten into the station systems. But the sounds were too big and too deliberate for small animals. Danny reached his door and stopped. The scanner was beeping rapidly now, indicating that whatever was causing the heat signatures was right inside his quarters. This made no sense. His room had been locked, and he had the only access code. He pressed his hand against the door panel, and it slid open with a quiet hiss. Danny expected to see his small, neat room exactly as he had left it a few hours earlier. Instead, he saw something that made him freeze in complete shock. Two alien beings were lying on his bed, curled up together like sleeping cats. They were smaller than Danny had expected, about his own height instead of the 8-foot giants he had heard about. Their skin was smooth and pearl-colored, with natural armor plates that gleamed softly in the room's dim light. The most amazing thing about them was their bioluminescent patches. These glowing areas on their bodies pulsed with gentle, peaceful colors, soft blues and greens that reminded Danny of ocean waves or forest leaves. The aliens were breathing slowly and making quiet purring sounds as they slept. These had to be the missing Zephyrian princesses, but they looked nothing like the fierce warriors everyone was searching for. Instead, they seemed almost delicate, with softer features and smaller claws than their adult relatives. One of them had wrapped her forearms around Danny's pillow, while the other had somehow gotten tangled up in his spare blanket. Danny stood in his doorway with his heart beating fast. He knew he should call security immediately. He should alert Captain Morrison and the search teams. He should do anything except stand there staring at two alien princesses who had somehow broken into his room and fallen asleep in his bed. But something about the scene made him pause. The princesses looked so peaceful and content. Their glowing patches showed colors that seemed happy and calm. Whatever had driven them to hide in this small, simple room, they obviously felt safe here. Danny had never seen a Zephyrian up close before. He had only heard stories about their fierce nature and warrior culture. But these two young aliens did not look fierce at all. They looked like tired children who had found a comfortable place to rest. Very carefully, Danny stepped into his room and closed the door behind him. He did not want to wake the sleeping princesses, but he also did not want anyone else to find them before he understood what was happening. He activated his personal communicator and set it to the lowest volume. Captain Morrison, he whispered, this is Petty Officer Walsh. I need you to come to my quarters on Deck 7 immediately. And sir, please bring Dr. Carter. I found something very important. While waiting for the captain to arrive, Danny sat quietly in his chair and watched the sleeping aliens. He noticed that their breathing was synchronized. They inhaled and exhaled at the same time, and their glowing patches pulsed in matching rhythms. It was beautiful in a strange, otherworldly way. The princesses were smaller than adult Zephyrians, but they were still larger than humans. Their forearms were folded neatly beneath them, and their natural armor plates fit together perfectly. Their faces were more delicate than he had expected, with large eyes that were closed in peaceful sleep. Danny wondered how they had gotten into his locked room. Zephyrians were supposed to be very strong and flexible, so maybe they had found a way through the ventilation system. But why had they chosen his quarters specifically? There were hundreds of rooms on the station, many of them larger and more comfortable than his small space dot. Within 5 minutes, Danny heard quiet footsteps in the corridor outside. There was a soft knock on his door, and Captain Morrison's voice called out, "Walsh, it's the captain. May we come in?" "Yes, sir. But please be very quiet," Danny whispered back. The door opened, and Captain Morrison entered with Dr. Carter, Commander Brooks, and Security Chief Grant. All 4 officers stopped and stared in amazement at the sleeping aliens on Danny's bed. "How did they get in here?" whispered Lisa Grant. "Your door was locked, and there are no signs of forced entry." Dr. Carter was already scanning the princesses with his portable biosensors, being very careful not to wake them. "Look at these readings," he said quietly. "Their stress hormone levels are incredibly low. They are not just sleeping, they are in some kind of deep recovery state." "Recovery from what?" asked Commander Brooks. "From fear and exhaustion, I think," Carter replied. "Captain, I believe these princesses ran away from the diplomatic quarters because they were overwhelmed and scared. But the question is, why did they choose this specific room?" Jake Morrison studied the scene thoughtfully. Danny's quarters were small and simple, nothing like the luxury accommodations that had been prepared for the Zephyrian royal family. The room had basic furniture and a few personal items, but it was clean and comfortable in a humble way. "Walsh," the captain said quietly, "what makes your room different from the diplomatic suites? What would make 2 frightened alien children feel safer here than in rooms designed specifically for their species?" Danny looked around his small space and tried to think. "Well, sir, it's much smaller and quieter. The diplomatic suites are huge and formal with high ceilings and fancy decorations. This room is just simple, I guess. It feels more like home." Dr. Carter smiled slightly as he continued scanning. "Captain, I think I understand what happened. These are not adult Zephyrians. They are essentially teenagers. They were probably overwhelmed by all the ceremony and pressure and expectations. They wanted somewhere they could just be young and normal." "But why this specific room?" Brooks asked again. Carter aimed his scanner at Danny, then at the sleeping princesses. The readings showed something interesting. "Petty Officer Walsh, you have been working double shifts in engineering, correct? Long hours around the station's power systems under a lot of stress and physical exertion." "Yes, sir, but I don't understand what that has to do with anything." "Your body chemistry," Carter explained. "You have been producing elevated levels of certain stress hormones and pheromones associated with hard work and dedication. To a young Zephyrian, those chemical signals would indicate someone trustworthy and reliable, someone who puts duty above personal comfort." Jake Morrison began to understand. "You're saying they chose this room because Walsh smells like safety to them?" "Exactly. They found someone whose body chemistry told them he was a good person, someone they could trust. Then they found his quarters and decided this was the safest place on the entire station." The 4 officers stood quietly, watching the sleeping princesses. In a few hours, this discovery would prevent an interstellar war. But right now they were just looking at 2 young aliens who had found peace in the simple kindness of a human maintenance worker. The senior officers stood quietly in Danny's small room, all staring at the 2 sleeping alien princesses. The situation was delicate and dangerous. They had found the missing royals, but now they faced a new problem: how to wake them and return them to their mother without causing more trouble. Dr. Carter continued studying his biosensor readings. "Captain, these princesses are in the deepest state of relaxation I have ever seen in any Zephyrian. Their bodies are recovering from severe stress. If we wake them too suddenly or aggressively, we could cause them to panic." Captain Morrison nodded. "We need to handle this very carefully. Queen Valara is still threatening war, and we have less than 2 hours left before her deadline. But if we frighten her daughters, we could make things even worse." Security Chief Lisa Grant was examining the room for clues about how the princesses had entered. "I still don't understand how they got past the locked door. There are no signs of damage or forced entry." "Zephyrians are incredibly flexible," Dr. Carter explained. "Their natural armor plates can compress and shift. They probably came through the ventilation system and then somehow manipulated the door controls from inside. Danny Walsh felt overwhelmed by having so many senior officers in his small quarters. "Sir, I'm sorry this happened. I had no idea they were coming here. I was just trying to get some sleep before my next shift." "This is not your fault, Walsh," Captain Morrison assured him. "In fact, you may have prevented a war by providing these princesses with exactly what they needed, a safe place to rest." Commander Brooks was thinking about the bigger picture. "We still need to understand why they ran away in the first place. What happened in the diplomatic quarters that made them feel they needed to escape?" Dr. Carter had been studying Zephyrian culture and psychology for hours. "I think I can explain that. Adult Zephyrians are warriors who value strength, honor, and aggression. But these princesses are not adults yet. They are still in their juvenile phase, when their instincts focus more on survival and finding security." "What do you mean by security?" Jake asked. "Think about it from their perspective," Alex continued. "They are on an alien space station, surrounded by strange creatures who look and smell different from anything they know. Their mother and her warriors are all focused on important diplomatic business. The princesses are expected to represent their entire species, but they are still just young people who want to feel safe and comfortable." One of the sleeping princesses shifted slightly on Danny's bed. Her bioluminescent patches flickered from peaceful blue to a slightly brighter green. Dr. Carter watched his scanner carefully. "She's starting to wake up," he said quietly. "Her brain activity is increasing, and her stress hormones are rising slightly. We need to decide how to handle this." Captain Morrison made a quick decision. "Walsh, I want you to be the one to wake her up. She chose to trust you and your space. If she sees you first, she might stay calm." Danny felt nervous about the responsibility, but he understood the logic. Very slowly, he approached his bed and gently touched the princess's shoulder. Her skin felt warm and smooth like polished stone. "Hey there," Danny said softly. "Time to wake up. Everything is okay?" The princess's large, multifaceted eyes opened slowly. They reflected the room's light like jewels, showing swirls of silver and gold. She looked at Danny without fear or surprise, as if she had been expecting to see him there. Then she noticed the other humans in the room. Her bioluminescent patches flickered briefly with alarm colors, quick flashes of yellow and orange. But when she saw Danny's calm expression, the colors settled back to peaceful blues and greens. The sound of her sister waking up made the second princess stir as well. Both aliens sat up on Danny's bed, moving with graceful, fluid motions. They were beautiful in their alien way, with elegant limbs and intelligent eyes. When the princesses saw Captain Morrison's uniform and rank insignia, they seemed to understand that their hiding time was over. Through their translation devices, they could communicate with the humans, though their voices sounded like wind chimes and flowing water. "We apologize for the trouble we have caused," the first princess said. Her voice was soft and musical. "We did not wish to bring dishonor to our mother or create conflict between our peoples. We only wanted to find a place where we could rest without being perfect all the time," added the second princess. "Your Danny Walsh provided such a place. He did not judge us or expect us to be mighty warriors. He simply let us be ourselves." Captain Morrison stepped forward carefully, not wanting to frighten them. "Your Highnesses, your mother is very worried about you. She has been searching everywhere and is very upset." "We know," said the first princess sadly, "but the weight of being Queen Valara's daughters is sometimes too heavy to carry. We are not yet ready for all the expectations and responsibilities of our royal position." Dr. Carter was fascinated by this insight into young Zephyrian psychology. "Can you tell us what happened in the diplomatic quarters? What made you decide to leave?" The two princesses looked at each other, and their bioluminescent patches pulsed in synchronized patterns. This was apparently how they communicated privately with each other. "The rooms were very large and cold," the second princess explained. "Everything was formal and serious. The guards watched us constantly, and the other diplomats expected us to speak wisely about things we do not yet understand." We felt like we were wearing masks that did not fit, the first princess added. We were supposed to be representatives of our people, but we are still learning what that means. We needed somewhere we could just be young. Danny found himself speaking before he could stop himself. You know, Your Highnesses, nobody expects you to be perfect all the time. Even grown-ups need breaks sometimes. Even your mother probably felt scared and overwhelmed when she was learning to be a leader. The princesses looked at him with surprise, then at each other. Their glowing patches pulsed in what Dr. Carter recognized as amusement and relief. Your Danny Walsh speaks wisdom, said the second princess. He understands that being young is not a weakness or a failure. It is simply a part of growing. Commander Brooks was thinking about the diplomatic implications. Your Highnesses, we need to return you to your mother soon. She is very angry and has threatened to attack our station if you are not found. We understand, the first princess replied. We are ready to return to our duties, but we have one request. What is that? Captain Morrison asked. We would like Danny Walsh to come with us when we go back to our mother. He has shown us kindness without asking for anything in return. He has taught us that humans can be trusted and that safety can be found in unexpected places. Dr. Carter smiled at the request. I think that's an excellent idea. Your mother will want to understand what happened, and Walsh can help explain how you ended up here. Danny felt nervous about meeting the angry Zephyrian queen, but he also felt honored that the princesses wanted him to accompany them. I'll do whatever you need me to do, Your Highnesses. The princesses stood up from the bed, stretching their forearms gracefully. They were taller than Danny, but shorter than the adult Zephyrians he had seen in videos. Their movements were fluid and elegant, like dancers. Thank you for the gift of rest and safety, the first princess said to Danny. We will not forget your kindness. And we will tell our mother and our people about the goodness we found here, added the second princess. Perhaps this will help our species understand each other better. As they prepared to leave Danny's quarters, Dr. Carter made one final observation. Your Highnesses, you have taught us something important today. You have shown us that young people of any species need the same things: safety, understanding, and the freedom to grow at their own pace. The procession that walked through the corridors of the space station was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. Two alien princesses walked beside a human maintenance worker, followed by the station's senior officers, heading toward what they all hoped would be reconciliation instead of war. The walk through the space station corridors felt like the longest journey of Danny Walsh's life. He was walking beside two alien princesses, heading toward a meeting with their mother, one of the most powerful and dangerous beings in the galaxy. Behind him, Captain Morrison and the other senior officers followed quietly. Word had spread quickly through the station that the missing princesses had been found. Crew members lined the hallways, watching in amazement as the small procession passed by. Most humans had never seen a Zephyrian up close, and the sight of the two graceful aliens walking peacefully among them was both beautiful and surreal. The princesses moved with fluid elegance, their bioluminescent patches glowing with steady, calm colors. They stayed close to Danny, occasionally touching his arm or shoulder in a gesture that seemed to give them confidence. Their trust in him was complete and obvious. Are you nervous about seeing your mother? Danny asked quietly as they walked. Yes, admitted the first princess. Mother will be very angry that we caused so much trouble. She will think we have brought shame to our family and our people. But we will tell her the truth, said the second princess firmly. We will explain that we learned something important about humans today. We will tell her that not all strength comes from fighting and that kindness can be more powerful than weapons. Dr. Carter walked behind them, still amazed by what he had witnessed. The behavior of the young Zephyrians had taught him more about their species in a few hours than months of research had accomplished. He was already planning reports that would change how humans understood alien psychology. As they approached the main diplomatic area, they could hear Queen Valara's voice booming through the translation systems. She was still making threats and demands, her anger echoing through the metal corridors like thunder. Security Chief Lisa Grant had arranged for the meeting to take place in the largest conference room on the station. The Zephyrian honor guards were waiting there, along with Queen Valara herself. The alien ruler stood 8 feet tall in her ceremonial armor, her bioluminescent crown flashing dangerous red and orange colors. When the doors opened and the princesses entered with their human escorts, the entire room fell silent. Queen Valara's angry colors flickered and changed as she saw her daughters walking calmly beside Dani Walsh. The 2 princesses approached their mother with dignity and grace. They did not cower or show fear, despite her obvious rage. Instead, they stood straight and proud, their own bioluminescent patches glowing with respectful but confident colors. "My daughters," Queen Valara said, her voice carrying a mixture of relief and anger. "Where have you been? Do you realize you nearly caused a war between our peoples?" "Yes, mother," the first princess replied. "We understand the seriousness of our actions and we accept full responsibility for any trouble we have caused." "But we also learned something very important," added the second princess. "We learned that humans possess a kind of strength that we had not recognized before, the strength of compassion and understanding." Queen Valara's crown flickered from angry red to confused yellow. "What do you mean by this?" The princesses looked at Dani, encouraging him to step forward. He felt terrified standing before the massive alien queen, but the trust of her daughters gave him courage. "Your Majesty," Dani said, his voice steady despite his fear,